With us, Woj, what do you have?
The big one, Chris Paul is headed to the Phoenix Suns. He'll go on a multi-player deal from Oklahoma City. And now the Suns and Robert Sarver in the Western Conference, they become a real factor in this Western Conference race. Devin Booker very much wanted Chris Paul in this trade and really pushed the organization. And now Chris Paul is headed in a package that I'm told is going to include Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, Jalen LeCue, a 2022 first-round pick from Phoenix to Oklahoma City, who now have 17 first-round picks between now and 2026, and Ty Jerome, who was a draft pick of theirs last year in Phoenix. But for the Suns, bringing on Chris Paul at this point in his career off of a tremendous season, really recreated his value again with the Thunder last year. There were those who thought Oklahoma City might have to give an asset to get his contract off, and instead they get some good young players. They get another first-round pick. But the Suns, who played great in the bubble this summer with Monty Williams, Chris Paul, this is the first time in a very long time Robert Sarver has had this kind of leadership with this organization. And Chris Paul gets a chance to be with a young team with very much of an upward trajectory in the Western Conference.
So what's the long-term plan for OKC in making this move?
Well, you're going to continue to see OKC with these veteran players continue, I think, to move off assets. They have Steven Adams. They have, certainly still an all-star level center in the Western Conference. They traded Dennis Schroeder. That was finalized. He goes to the Lakers. But this is an Oklahoma City team that's got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's their point guard of the future. And they have more assets than any organization has ever assembled in putting together a rebuild, and they're going to get a lot of cracks at it. They got 2 first-round picks in this draft Wednesday night.
Chris Paul to the Suns, OKC rebuilding for the future. Adrian Wojnarowski with the very latest. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Jay.
Cam Newton apparently handles pressure as well as anyone. The Ravens blitzed Newton on 72% of his dropbacks, the second highest blitz rate in his career, and the highest by any quarterback this season, but he only took 1 sack the whole game. Newton improving to 9-0 in games in which he's blitzed on 60% of his dropbacks, the most wins by any QB since he entered the league. Anna?
Jay, it is a big week for the NBA. About 20 minutes ago, trades could officially happen. Wednesday, the NBA draft tips off. You can watch that right here on ESPN. Friday at 6, free agency gets underway. And the Rockets' James Harden is pondering his future. And sources tell ESPN that the Nets are rising to the top of his list as a possible trade destination. The thought of teaming up with KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn apparently has him intrigued. Durant and Harden, as everyone knows, former teammates in OKC. Apparently, they recently discussed the possibility, but there have yet to be trade talks between the two front offices. As Adrian Wojnarowski joins us now, I mean, my question is, which one of the 3 of those guys is going to say, hey, I don't need the basketball all the time? But anyway, that's another question. Want to mention quickly, the Nets have just traded with the Pistons for perimeter defender Bruce Brown as well. So what are the realistic chances that James Harden could end up in Brooklyn?
Well, there's been a lot of factors for a trade of this magnitude, but it's going to start with James Harden really being aggressive with Houston ownership, management, and saying, that's where I want to play. I want to move on. And I think he's going to have to push the issue to get this because, Brooklyn doesn't have a star to send back to them. The idea would be to play with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. There certainly would be great interest in Harden around the league. And ultimately, how much would Brooklyn give up? Would they give up multiple picks moving forward across a lot of years? That's not Sean Marks' style as their GM. Still a lot of hurdles, but it is certainly on the mind of James Harden and Kevin Durant at this point.
Well, they have monster contracts too, though. How would that work out, KD and Kyrie, at such high salaries, bringing in James Harden?
They have an owner in Brooklyn and Joe Tsai who is willing to go deep in luxury tax, and having 3 max players and a player like Joe Harris you're going to have to re-sign in this offseason. It would be an expensive proposition. There aren't a lot of teams in this pandemic right now who would be willing to spend the way the Nets would be to have to do a deal like this, take on Harden's money long term.
Man, and who would be willing to take a back seat? Like, to me, that's the intriguing question.
Those are issues to be talked through.
Exactly. All right. So the Rockets, obviously, they lose to the Lakers in the playoffs. AD, as expected, he's opting out of the final year of his contract, so he officially enters free agency. What's the situation with him and his future with the Lakers?
Hannah, the issue for the Lakers and Anthony Davis is simply going to be, how long of a contract extension is he going to do with them? Is he going to match up with LeBron, add a couple years on, do a deal for a couple years, and then go back in to free agency again? Does he do a 4-year or 5-year deal? That's the only question for he and the Lakers to work out this week. But Anthony Davis will be back opening night with LeBron James in LA.
Yeah, why not? And it seems like it just ended. I was saying to you, and it seems like you just cut out of the bubble. Anyway, here we are. I know you're very busy, lots going on. You'll keep us posted, and you're here all day. Woj,
thanks,
thank
Hannah.
you.
3 TDs. Look at the NFC East through 10 weeks of the season, and every team has 3 or fewer wins. Since the 1970 merger, the 2015 AFC South is the only other division to have all of its teams with a point differential of -25 or worse through 10 weeks. That is according to the Elias Sports Bureau. For more, let's bring in our NFL analyst, Jeff Saturday. Jeff, what's the biggest reason why Carson Wentz and that Eagles offense is struggling so much right now?
Yeah, his inaccuracy. I mean, when you look at him, teams want Carson Wentz to beat him, and he's not capable of doing it right now. When you look at him, he throws a lot of high passes, and he also hesitates a ton, Jay. Like when he's in the pocket, they lead the league in giving up sacks, and I know people want to blame that on the offensive line, but there's a lot of things that go into sacks. He'll sit in the pocket and try to go through it, and he holds the ball. He has no pocket awareness right now. Again, yesterday, it's hard to be perfect in football, right? Well, they were perfect in something, just in a negative way. They were 0 for in third down, 0 for 9 against the Giants in third down conversions. You're not going to beat anybody, especially a bad football team. He is not doing his part to keep this team winning football games, and to be the franchise guy, just disappointing to be this far along in the season and then really have no answer.
Hey, let's move from the woeful NFC East to the only undefeated team left.
Please.
The 9-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. Hey, what stands out to you about their 26-point win over the Cincinnati Bengals?
Man, Big Ben. I mean, how awesome is this? You talk about comeback player of the year. Here's a guy who had elbow surgery that no one believed he could even come back from. I remember talking about preseason. I said, if he can be 50% of what he was in 2018 when he was on the MVP pace, this team has a chance. You talk about how good their defense and how good their coach. I mean, this is a good football team. Well, he's thrown 22 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. By the way, 3 of the 4 were in one game against the Titans. So he has he's protected the ball exceptionally well. He understands where they're going to win games, right? That's defensively. All he has to do is his part. Yesterday, he goes out and throws 4 touchdowns, but give him a ton of credit, man. This guy is playing within the system. He's not trying to do too much. He's just playing his role, and this football team is on fire. And again, looked great yesterday against the Bengals, but give a ton of credit to Ben Roethlisberger. He has had a stellar season to this point.
Yeah, over 300 passing yards and 4 passing TDs for the 11th time in his career. Hey, Jeff, also in the AFC, the Dolphins beat the Chargers with Tua winning his 3rd straight start. And after the game, Chargers defensive lineman Damian Square gets Tua to sign Square's Tua jersey. Now, Square went to Alabama before Tua did. What's your reaction to this, Jeff?
I love it. I love it. I mean, how good is it? You talk about a guy who is watching a young man mature into the position, how he's waited from the injury and come back from an injury. Again, we just talked about Roethlisberger. How about this kid, man? People thought, it messed with his draft status. People didn't know if he was going to be the same guy. He comes out, and this team hasn't missed a beat. I mean, congratulations to Tua, but just respect, right? It's a fellow Alabama guy, and a guy's like, hey, man, I want to get this, right? This is going to mean something in 10, 15 years. Tua's had a heck of a start, man, been impressive, but much respect to this. This is cool to see. When an old head's paying homage to a young man, that's always fun to see.
Yeah, get it early, like you said. And they're in the family. They're in that Bama family. So,
that's right.